everyone, and welcome back to another episode of In Depth with Academia. I'm your host, Richard Price. Yeah, that Richard Price, CEO of academia.edu, and I'm thrilled to be diving into another fascinating paper today. As always, I'll be walking through the ideas neutrally. Remember, these aren't my own views. I'm simply presenting what the author's written so you can think about it yourself. So, let's get into it. Today's episode looks at some pretty big ideas brought forward by Ramon J. Campbell in a paper titled The Special Theory of Nfluencity. Campbell's work from institutions like the University of London and the University of the West Indies proposes a mathematical approach to something we all deal with but rarely try to measure: human influence. Wild, right? The core question here: how can we understand and even quantify the influence each person has? Why does it matter if we can measure influence mathematically? Well, think about your own life for a second. Influence actually shapes pretty much everything, from who gets hired for a job to which ideas spread across social media, to which friend group you gravitate toward. Understanding influence could give us a whole new way of seeing everyday human behavior, relationship dynamics, even social structures. And the author, Campbell, takes a kind of almost physicsy leap, proposing laws of human influence and human nature. He literally builds equations analogous to how physicists describe the motion of objects. So what's at the heart of Campbell's theory? Okay, the whole thing starts with the claim that every human has a certain degree of influence. Imagine for a minute being able to actually calculate it the same way you might calculate your BMI or something. Campbell sets out 8 laws. Yeah, 8. That supposedly govern how influence operates among people. And he calls these rules the laws of Nfluencity. Let me talk you through a few. Law 1 is about proximity. Basically, the mind tends to stay in its current state unless something or someone close to you shakes things up. It's like Newton's first law, but for your thoughts. Then, Law 2 jumps into attraction. The idea here is that the force drawing two people together depends on the combined influence each has. Not just emotions or chemistry, but a kind of measurable energy. Law 3 deals with relationships. Campbell argues the more different two people's influence level is, the more likely the relationship is to hit trouble. That's pretty thought-provoking for anyone who's ever felt intimidated or out of place in a group. It's basically a compatibility equation. Now, jumping ahead to Law 5, this is where Campbell gets specific about what counts toward influence. He lists things like possessions, education, job, salaried appearance, social connections, all those things we sort of know and intuitively matter, but here he's saying you can, at least in principle, add them up and get a number for influence itself. Law 8 gets pretty philosophical. For every action done to someone, they'll respond in kind, good, or bad. So it's a little like karma, but dressed up in equations. A super interesting twist comes when Campbell brings in the idea of shared influence. Hanging out with influential people actually increases your own influence, sort of like social osmosis, if that makes sense. Suddenly, who you're connected with isn't just about networking, but about measurable changes to your social gravity. Then Campbell takes us somewhere I didn't expect. He applies the theory of relativity, not just to physics, but to how we perceive time and distance in social and psychological contexts. For example, when you travel a long distance for the first time, it feels longer and slower. The more you repeat it, the shorter it seems. It's like time and space depend on experience, and interestingly, on your own degree of influence. Why does this matter for you? Well, it raises questions about how our minds process novelty, how social unfamiliarity might make things seem more daunting, and maybe why big changes in your life seem so overwhelming at first. Now, a quick digression. Have you ever noticed when you're at a conference, the people who seem to command the room kind of warp how you remember the whole day, like the hours drag when you're not connecting, and then they speed up when things click? Anyway, back to the paper. To be clear, I'm not saying these laws are absolute truth. Campbell himself references Einstein and traditional physics, but of course no equation can ever capture the full weirdness of human experience. That's the fun and the challenge of trying to find clarity in messy real life. So what can you take away? Maybe just the reminder that influence, yours, mine, everyone's, works in mysterious ways, but it does matter. Thinking of it in concrete terms can shift how you act, who you connect with, even how you approach new experiences. But remember, academic research just opens doors. It's up to you to step through and see what resonates. Alright, thanks for listening as we dove headfirst into the special theory of Nfluencity. I'm Richard Price. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and I'll catch you next time on In Depth with Academia.
Want to get better at actual conversations?